Today on the Healthful Pursuit Podcast.
Now there's a series of plants that we have documented over the years that when you consume them, within an hour or two, we can quantify in your bloodstream more stem cells in circulation. That's what has been used in the cases that I talked about earlier. You can put more stem cells in circulation with fasting more than 3 days. You can put more stem cells in circulation with intense physical activity. You can support stem cell function in the body with reducing your stress. Don't smoke, don't drink alcohol. Like alcohol drinking, smoking, and stress will suppress the role of your stem cells in your body.
Hello, friend, and welcome to another episode. This week, we are having an eye-opening conversation with Christian Drapeau, who's a neurophysiology scientist and one of the leading voices in stem cell research. Now, leading into this conversation, I knew nothing about stem cells other than I love putting them on my face in the form of creams and serums, and it's made a big difference in my acne. But other than that, I have no idea. So I am starting from the basics with you guys. Now, Christian takes us on a fascinating journey into the world of stem cells, what they are, how they work, and why they're essential for healing and anti-aging. As many of you know, my mother was diagnosed with Parkinson's a couple of years ago, and through the grace of God, I have had the coolest guests on, which we start talking. I'm like, wait a minute, that would work for Parkinson's. And I get to ask them about the neurodegenerative impacts of some of the areas that we focus on. And I love that part of my job. So I hope you really enjoy our conversation with Christian. We do talk about his supplements, STEMregen. Now, I personally have not tried this product, so I can't speak to its effectiveness. I have no experience with it. If you want to check it out, they put together a coupon code for me. It's STEMregen.co/Leanne, and you can use the coupon code Leanne for 15% off for all new customers. But again, I have not personally tried this product yet. I had Christian on the show. He talked about the product. It was my first time hearing about it. I really just wanted to have him on the show to talk about what we can do on a day-to-day basis to improve stem cell function and regeneration and to just learn more about stem cells overall. So in the episode, we do talk about some of the ways and more cost-effective ways that we can stimulate that stem cell production, including fasting, exercises, nutrient-rich diets, sleep and stress reduction, cold exposure, and all those sorts of things. So we definitely dive into all of those pieces as well. I hope you enjoy our time with Christian today. Hey, my name is Leanne, and I'm fascinated with helping women navigate how to eat, move, and care for their bodies. This has taken me on a journey from vegan, keto, high protein to everything in between. I'm a small town holistic nutritionist turned 3-time international bestselling author turned functional medicine practitioner, offering telemedicine services around the globe to women looking to better their health and stop second guessing themselves. I'm here to teach you how to wade through the wellness noise to get to the good stuff that'll help you achieve your goals. Whether you're seeking relief from chronic ailments, striving for peak performance, or simply eager to live a more vibrant life, this podcast is your go-to resource for actionable advice and inspiration. Together, we'll uncover the interconnectedness of nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, and mindset, empowering you to make informed choices that support your unique health journey. Think of it as quality time with your bestie mixed with a little med school so you're empowered at your next doctor visit. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn about your body and how to care for it healthfully. Join me as we embrace vitality, reclaim our innate potential, and discover what it truly means to pursue healthfulness. Hi, Christian. How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
I'm so good. I'm so glad to have you on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit, like I've done your official bio, but in a couple of words, what lights you up to do the job that you're doing? Like what keeps you going? What lights you up? What gets you excited?
I mean, it's really the stories, the cases of the people that have had health issues and the impact that has had in their life. In their lives. As you will see as we go through this, stem cells are playing an absolutely fundamental role in people's health. It's amazing that we made it that far scientifically and not knowing really about stem cells in the body. And when we start to leverage the role of stem cells in the body, the impact that we can have on health is mind-blowing. So to me, hearing those stories is what keeps me going.
Okay, so Can you give us an example of a story? If somebody's new to stem cells, we have no idea what we're talking about. We're going to get into that. But what are some of the success stories you're seeing? What kind of changes do you see take place with stem cell work?
Well, let me give you a few cases that we have actually published because all the cases that we come across, I don't have access to the medical file. I cannot tell you, yes, it's real, it's proven. I can only tell you it's a story that I heard. So let me share with you those for which we got the medical records, we spoke to their doctors, we were able to analyze the data, pass that on to the team of doctors. They analyzed it and they published that data. So we have basically a quadriplegic for 15 years paralyzed, and the woman regained mobility. We have somebody with ejection fraction of 13%, which is basically can barely get out of bed and do like 3-4 step, and then it's chest pain, out of breath. And within about 6 to 8 weeks, had regained essentially normal heart function. We had severe Parkinson cases, people unable to really dress, eat. Within 6 weeks, was able to pretty much have a normal life, drive his car. We had a child with kidney failure, and the kidneys started to regrow. I mean, the stories are absolutely cases of stroke with this man who was paralyzed and with aphasia, and within a matter of a few months, basically returned to play tennis, resume his job as an MD. So stories like this, I can go on and on. There's hundreds, thousands of those stories.
And unbelievable stories. Like the things you're saying are just like, pardon, what?
Yeah, they're unbelievable. So they just all attest to the fact that your stem cells are extremely powerful. We just did not know that they were there and that we can tap into them.
Okay, so what's a stem cell? What are we talking about? You're saying my stem cells. Can you elaborate on this?
Okay, so the best way to define what a stem cell is would be to define what is not a stem cell in your body. So every cell of your body is called a somatic cell. So it's a cell that will do one specific thing. It has one specific function. It will never transform and essentially will never proliferate, will never multiply. So you take a cell of your retina, it will respond to light, and that's the only thing it will do. You take a cell of your muscle, it will contract. That's all it do. If one day you have a muscle injury, you won't have a cell of your skin that will say, "My God, the muscle is in trouble. Let me go down and become a muscle cell." It won't happen. Somatic cells do not differentiate into another type of cells. At the other end of that spectrum, you have stem cells. They are undifferentiated. They are like blank cells, and their role is in their ability to actually transform into all the different cell types of the body. So originally, they were only believed to be precursors to to blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. That's what anybody in med school, probably to this day, that's what we're told. So in the early 2000s, the big discovery is that these stem cells that are living in the bone marrow can become blood cells, but also heart cells, brain cells, skin cells, liver, pancreas. They can become everything in the body. Not only they can, but they do. They are your repair system. So that's really the gist of the information about stem cells.
So your body makes these cells that don't have an identity, basically. And at what point does the body decide then to like turn it into these certain cells? And
okay, here's how it works. So just like think of your immune system, okay? You cut yourself, you cut your finger, there's a bacteria that gets in there, you get an infection. So that infection will trigger the release of immune cells from your lymph node. So a specific type of cells from a specific tissue, your lymphoid tissue. These immune cells will go everywhere in the body, but they'll be attracted when they go through your fingers to that area. They'll migrate into your cut, go beside the bacteria, kill the bacteria. It's a very well coordinated phenomenon. Your repair system is exactly the same. After you've had that cut, if it's a significant cut, that cut will release compounds known to go to the bone marrow and trigger the release of your own stem cells from your own bone marrow. So after a heart attack, a stroke, anything that is somewhat significant, this will trigger the release of your own stem cells. The number of stem cells in your blood will increase 3 to 10-fold after 3 to 5 days. Now, these stem cells are going everywhere in the body, but when they circulate in the fine capillaries of the affected tissue where there is the injury, locally that injury is releasing one specific compound called SDF1. The name is not relevant, but just to know that it has been identified very clearly. That compound will connect with a receptor at the surface of stem cells, and it will trigger the migration of that stem cells out of the blood circulation into that injured tissue. And just like when an immune cell gets into contact with bacteria, it activates them and it kills the bacteria. When a stem cell gets in contact with cellular debris of that tissue, it makes stem cells multiply and transform into cells of that tissue, literally repairing the tissue. So every single day, and to me, this is like the absolutely like gigantic elephant in the room, is that every single human being on this planet has had something that they have repaired in their life. A broken bone, a cut, a bruise, whatever it is, a sprained ankle. We've all had something, and we all witness that the body completely repairs. It's a part of our daily life. And in medicine, that was a black hole. There was never a mechanism to explain how the body was repairing. And that's what has been discovered with the role of stem cells in the body. So they are your repair system.
So in the case of one of your examples, Parkinson's, is the presence of Parkinson's because we don't have enough stem cells, or is it just that stem cells create that healing that the body otherwise doesn't have enough stem cells? Or like what's happening with the stem cells in that? Do we have a reduction over time, or why aren't they doing what they need to do to not have Parkinson's, for example?
This is a very layered question. It's a great question, but it'll take a little while to answer the question. So the disease that you're developing that are age-related diseases, you don't develop them when you're 20. You develop them when you're 50, 60. So there is indeed an aspect here related to how many stem cells you have in your bloodstream. Because we are born with red marrow that makes stem cells, but the red marrow very quickly converts into yellow marrow, fatty marrow that does not make stem cells. It's a very normal process of our physiology. By age 30, we've lost 90% of our red marrow. So there's a point in our 30s, we all discover we don't repair as well, we don't recover as well as we used to. And from that point on, what we need to understand is that stem cell research has revealed that aging is not what we used to think, which is we experience in our body aging like an old fence in the backyard. Like every year, it's a little bit more decrepit. But aging in the human body in any organism is not really happening that way. It's a balance between losing cells every day and replacing the cells that are being lost with stem cells. That's their role. So you've got these two forces in your body. When you're young, you have tons of stem cells. You grow, you heal, you like everything is forward. As the number of stem cells declines in your blood and you have fewer and fewer stem cells to offset that ongoing cellular loss. And when I mean ongoing cellular loss is that, again, stem cell research has shown we have, let's say, a new liver every 2-3 years, a new skin every month, half of a new heart every 25 years. Everything is constantly in this process of turnover. So you develop the diseases because you don't have enough stem cells to offset that cellular loss. If you have a specific condition, genetics, lifestyle, injuries, past exposure to environmental toxin, whatever it is, that will make somebody predisposed to losing cells, making dopamine in the brain, that's Parkinson. If you don't have enough stem cells in circulation, these cells cannot be replaced, the Parkinson's develops. There's not a force to fight against it. So when we put more stem cells in circulation, we open the door for the brain to repair. So that's why we have the stories that we have with by putting more stem cells in circulation. And that is true for anything. So if you look at diabetes, is the loss of cells making insulin. You think of heart disease, is the loss of cardiomyocyte. You think of hypothyroidism. Everything, every single age-related disease is always the loss of a type of cell or cell function that your stem cells can replace.
Okay, and you're saying you're very good at this. You're very good at describing this, and you're totally walking me along this. And I love that this is a new topic for me too. So what you're saying is as we age, where the stem cells are created is in the red marrow, you said?
Correct.
And so we are reducing the amount of stem cell creation, which then affects each of us uniquely, like the Parkinson's or all the different examples that you provided. Is it focusing on boosting the red marrow, or is it simply on, I need to create more stem cells. I understand that the red marrow is just getting old and there's nothing we can do, so I'm just going to give myself stem cells? Or what's the fix this?
So there is nothing known today that can slow down the progression of this process of bone marrow conversion to go from red to yellow marrow, and nothing that is known to reverse that conversion. So at this point, research would be very interesting. And it's an area where I'm getting into because if we find something, it's going to be probably the most anti-aging thing that we could do. Because there's a direct link between, let me put it this way. I published this view of aging about 10 years ago, suggesting that the reason why we age and develop diseases is because of that decline in the number of stem cells. And in that article, I said there's a way to prove if this is true or not, or verify or confirm it. Let's go and count the number of stem cells in the bloodstream of people who have developed all kinds of age-related diseases, and let's compare that with healthy people of the same age. If this is true, that means they should have fewer stem cells in circulation. Now there's about 50 of those studies published. So people with heart disease, atherosclerosis, erectile dysfunction, liver failure, diabetes, kidney failure, emphysema, COPD, heart disease, Parkinson, Alzheimer's, arthritis, lupus, and the list keeps growing. They all have 50% and less than the number of stem cells that you find in a healthy person. So there's a direct link between you lose your ability to offset cellular loss, and if you happen to be somebody that started with a lower number of stem cells, then you hit that lack of balance earlier in your life, and you start developing the problem earlier in your life. So it's linked to the number of stem cells in circulation. Now, how do you put more stem cells in circulation? And that's kind of the story of my last 20 some years of research, is that I was hired by a company selling a product at the time in 1995. You may have heard of the product, Klamath Lake blue-green algae. I was hired to study how this plant was working. So I quickly found the mechanisms of action for its effect on inflammation, its effect on the brain, on immunity. But as I'm doing all of this, I came across cases of people who reversed multiple sclerosis, severe heart disease, insulin-dependent diabetes, stroke, Parkinson. And there's a point, liver failure. And there's a point where 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 cases is okay. But when it becomes 50, when it becomes 100, there's a point where it started to be really compelling. And then I had access to some of the medical file of these people, and it became clear at some point that this could not be denied. This product was doing something exceptional, and we had no explanation. So I'll make the story short. We're in the early days of stem cell research, and the idea came in my mind one day: what if stem cells were the repair system of the body, and that plant was triggering the release of stem cells from the bone marrow? The idea made a lot of sense. It was like a far-fetched idea at the time, but we bought the equipment to count stem cells, and we quickly discovered that's how the plant was working. So how to put more stem cells in circulation? Now there's a series of plants that we have documented over the years that when you consume them, within an hour or two, we can quantify in your bloodstream more stem cells in circulation. That's what has been used in the cases that I talked about earlier. You can put more stem cells in circulation with fasting more than 3 days. You can put more stem cells in circulation with intense physical activity. You can support stem cell function in the body with reducing your stress. Don't smoke, don't drink alcohol. Like alcohol drinking, smoking, and stress will suppress the role of your stem cells in your body. So that's like a general overview of where stem cells are coming from, what they're doing in the body, and how we can make more stem cells, like release more stem cells in circulation.
Brilliant. Nail health. Many ladies are super self-conscious about their nails. I've been there. There are two things that I've done over the last year that have made a significant difference in my nails. The first is making sure that my cuticles are hydrated and cared for. So once a week, I will just cut them down, and before bed, I will put just a little bit, like a little dollop of tallow butter just directly on the cuticles and rub them in. And that has made such a significant difference on the overall look of my nails. And then it comes to the breaking and issues of length and building strong nails. And that's where the BioCell collagen comes in. So I've been doing collagen for many, many years. When I switched to BioCell, my nails took off, just like my hair and my skin. I no longer had like the weak, brittle nails that just wouldn't grow. They started growing, and now they're strong. And actually, I have to cut them down quite often because I just don't like them super long. Now, BioCell collagen works differently than the other collagens on the market. The biggest difference here is that it's hydrolyzed, and also it has other components like the chondroitin sulfate and the hyaluronic acid that creates a matrix that allows the collagen to work far better than the powders we're getting at Costco. And this is going to build a stronger and more resilient nail overall. You can give your nails the boost that they deserve by going to mygrowinghair.com and grab a month's supply of the BioCell collagen for $25 off. And there's a little bonus. If you set up a subscription, you'll get an additional $25 off every future order forever. So that's 15% savings on your collagen every month, plus the initial $25 off your first purchase. And I'm going to send you a personal text message so that we can stay connected on all things collagen, hair, skin, nails, and all those fun things. So go to mygrowinghair.com to get started. So my audience is not new to the whole fasting topic. That's pretty basic for them. Like, okay, fast 3 days. Got it. No problem. Intense activity. Can we define what that is? Because is it just based on what you've done previously, or does your heart rate have to get up to a certain area for a certain amount of time? Or can you explain that a little bit more?
Okay. Quantifying the number of stem cells in circulation is not difficult, but to quantify the difference between a before and an after is not a simple task, because there are many things that can modulate the number of stem cells, make it fluctuate, and it also varies during the day. So if you quantify before and later in the day, you already would have fewer stem cells in the afternoon than you would have in the early morning. So it's just not an easy task, okay? But what I can share with you is that in the scientific literature, if you run a marathon, and in those studies, half a marathon was not enough. So you see, it needs to be significant. Now, it was documented also into like a full-blown, I think it was an hour or two of rowing. Like it has to be intense, and the understanding is that it's the injuries that you trigger into your muscles and your ligament that are going to trigger the repair response, so it puts more stem cells in circulation. Now, with knowing all the data, having seen what it does in people, I'm not convinced that the stem cells that you release with exercise actually play a significant role in repair, because they're released to repair your muscles and tendons. So they'll be called there, and I'm not sure it's going to repair your skin or something else in your body, which doesn't mean that exercise is not good for you. But for the stem cells, I'm not sure that it really plays a role into overall healing, but it does put more stem cells in circulation. It has to be significant. It's more than heart rate. Okay, let me put it this way. Do something that you know that the day after you'll be sore. That will trigger stem cells.
Okay. So I just got back from a 30-day trek through the Azores, which is an island chain off the coast of Portugal. And I hiked over 120 kilometers in 30 days. It was the hardest physical thing I've ever done, ever. But when I got back and I took significant rest after, I've never been stronger, healthier, more vibrant. Like, people are commenting, like, what did you do? And I'm like, I basically tried to kill myself, didn't die. And I feel so much better. So yeah, I was sore the whole time.
But you see, in what you just described, and that also connects, completely different, but connects a little bit on the fasting. What we need to understand is that muscle growth, and this was sort of unknown until fairly recently. You know that muscle cells have more than one nucleus. So they're multinucleated cells. And the reason why they are multinucleated cells is that when you stress a muscle fiber, for that muscle fiber to grow, it's a stem cell from the muscle called satellite cells. So it's a tissue resident stem cell that will be replenished by stem cells from your bone marrow. But these stem cells will merge with an existing muscle cell to make it grow, to give it more nuclei in the cell so that it can produce more protein for the growth that it needs. So your hypertrophy that you gain after having stressed your muscles significantly comes from that role of stem cells. So if you feed yourself properly after what you went through, if you don't feed yourself properly, then you may not get the experience that you had. But if you feed yourself properly in ways that you were not aware of before, but probably were supporting the role of stem cells, a keto diet will do that, or a keto-leaning diet will do that, then you've just sort of amplified the ability of the muscle to go into hypertrophy after the exercise that you have done. You get something similar with fasting. You fast more than 3 days, you will increase the number of stem cells in circulation, but they are more dormant than normal during the fasting. But as you go into your refeeding portion, which is, as I'm sure you know and your people know, is almost the most important part of the fast, is when you resume, now your stem cells get awakened and you get a massive boost of repair at that time. And some work has suggested, which I find fascinating, is that if we take a sample of stem cells from the bone marrow before and after the fast, the stem cells are also more active, multiply faster. So basically, it creates a rejuvenation of your bone marrow stem cells, which is amazing because that would explain a lot of the anti-aging aspect of fasting.
Absolutely. Okay. There was a piece that you talked on about alcohol. A lot of people will say, well, I only have a couple drinks a week, or, on the weekends, I have 4 or 5 glasses of wine. Does that significantly impact things? Or are you of the mind of like absolutely no alcohol or some alcohol, or what have you seen?
I think I'll give you an objective answer. I'm not here to tell people what they should do. So the objective answer is that on the day, in the moment when there is alcohol in your blood, if I were to take a stem cell out of your body and test it for its ability to multiply, migrate, and do its job in the body, it would be inhibited. It'll be reduced. So it's on the day that you take alcohol. 1 glass, I don't think it's a big deal. If you take a little bit more, well, that day and maybe a few days after, your ability to repair is impaired. It's not that significant. I'm talking about long-term constant consumption of alcohol. You will get the exact same thing with cigarette smoking. Not only the smoker, but people around will be the same thing. And you get the same thing, and that's probably most important for this discussion with your people, because I'm assuming a lot of them don't smoke and don't drink like excessively. It's stress. Stress will do the same thing. I'm not talking about an acute stress necessarily where you lost something, you're going to grieve for like a stressful week. I'm talking this low grade stress that we're exposed to constantly and welcome to the world. We all live with that stress unless we develop a way to develop a mindset that makes us really not sweat the small stuff and even the medium stuff. Then that stress will basically shut down the role of stem cells in the body. And I'm not saying it's the only way, but it's definitely one of the core fundamental ways by which stress has been associated with so many different kinds of degenerative diseases in history. It's because you shut down your ability to repair. So you develop faster, those problems.
Right. So if a woman in her mid 40s is really stressed, drinking alcohol, going to bed at 10 p.m., having just had a big snack, waking up at 6 a.m. and having breakfast. So she's not fasting at all. And it sounds like just the sheer amount of everything working against the stem cell creation is probably, it's like a perfect recipe for lowered stem cells.
She will develop problem in her 40s, 50s, no doubt. They will start in her 40s. They may not be diagnosable problem, but it's going to be metabolic syndrome, gaining weight, small depression, poor sleep, poor concentration, cloudy mind, all that kind of stuff that if it doesn't change, then will turn into diagnosed problems.
Every symptom you just mentioned sounds like menopause. So could she go to her doctor and say, like, these things are happening, I don't know what's going on? And they'll say, oh, yeah, you're just reaching menopause.
I mean, if the person is the one that you describe, meaning drinking, not exercising, not sleeping well, eating just before going to bed, maybe having too much carbs in their diet. And like if we start to describe a lot of these, let me put it this way. I cannot tell you if it's the stem cells or the menopause, but if you change all of that, the menopause will go much better. I can guarantee.
It's true. And
it will support stem cells as well.
Did you say that there were certain plants that triggered stem cell creation?
Yeah.
Can we go into what that is and what that looks like?
So it's stem cell release, not so much stem cell creation. I'm not saying that it won't have an effect on stem cell production, but that's not what we quantify. We can only quantify how many stem cells are in the blood. So if I can count more stem cells in the blood a few hours after taking a plant extract, the only thing I can say is that it stimulated the release of these stem cells. Were the release stimulated by producing more? To an extent, it's a little bit of an open question. Some of these plants really have an effect on the release itself. But anyway, so we're talking about release of stem cells from the bone marrow, putting more stem cells in circulation. So that blue-green algae, as an example, that I started to work with in 1995. So in 2001, we discovered that's the first plant documented to stimulate the release of stem cells from the bone marrow. Once we've determined the mechanism of action, the active compounds, proof of concept, patents, and all of that, around 2005, then my mind went immediately into what else in the world has been associated with many kinds of health benefits, and let's go and test to see if these plants are working by stimulating stem cell release, which is something that nobody has ever looked at. So it was not a thing before. So, and then the first thing that will come to mind are medicinal mushroom, goji berries, fucoidan from seaweed, adaptogens. So we started to test a lot of these plants, and they almost like all have an effect on stem cells. We got the real breakthrough when I had a chance to work with scientists who had traveled into remote areas of the world. Like they had done trekking for, let's say, 4, 5, 6 weeks in the Congos, in Papua New Guinea, in Madagascar, in South America, talking with the healers and documenting plants and why they use plants to find plants that they would bring to pharma for neurodegenerative disease. That was their focus. So I asked them, well, is there a plant that the healers told you, take this, it's good for everything? So they said, they laughed, they said, nothing is good for everything. So I gave them a copy of my book describing the role of stem cells in the body. And they came back and they realized, okay, I understand now. It's not a plant that will do everything. It will do one thing, stem cell release, but people will experience it in different way. So it's a plant that would have been documented to bring many types of benefits. And they said, well, on their last trip to Madagascar, on their way back to the airport, their guide stopped into a small market, scooped a whole bag of these black beads. It looks like black tapioca. Put that in the bag and say, test that. But you tell a scientist, test that. You test it for what? So that was in their freezer for 5 years. They had not done anything with it. So they sent me a little bag of these black beads, and we are, I don't know, cowboys of science. So we didn't know what it was, and we said, hey, let's give it a shot. So we took these beads before, took a blood sample before and after, and we saw the biggest release of stem cells that we have seen so far. And it's a way that they prepare one specific species of aloe in Madagascar. So they have 65 species of aloe. Of those 65, 3 or 4 are known to be edible. So of all of those, that one, Aloe macroclada, is the only one that they use to make a product called Bahona, and it's for aging, all kinds of problems. So we derived our own extract from it, we tested it, and we got the strongest response that we've had so far. So now we have developed the actual system of harvest, collection, processing in Madagascar to be able to bring this product back here because it was not an existing production before. It was just a local production. So that's one of the cool ingredients that we have that we're working with. Another one that is nice is sea buckthorn berry, used in Chinese medicine, Mongolian medicine, Tibetan medicine for diseases of the lung, the heart, cardiovascular system, the pancreas, and to boost the ability of the body to repair when there's an injury. So I connected with farmers on the Tibetan plateau, developed an extract of sea buckthorn berry. We tested it and we saw a great effect on stem cells. So I have now 5 plants that are sort of my top stem cell mobilizers that will release stem cells from the bone marrow. So the blue-green algae, sea buckthorn berry, Aloe macroclada, fucoidan, which is the polysaccharide from seaweed, brown seaweeds, and then Panax notogensin.
Out of all of those, I was most surprised by aloe, to be honest. I was not expecting you to say aloe.
I was not. Actually, a lot of these plants, like aloe, like sea buckthorn berry, everything I had tested before sea buckthorn berry were all polysaccharides. Like there's a polysaccharide in AFA, goji berry polysaccharide, medicinal mushroom, it was the polysaccharide, fucoidan was the polysaccharide. So when I looked at sea buckthorn berry, the actives are polyphenols. They're not polysaccharides. So I did it because the hunch was there, but the science was not there. And we found that it did it. When came aloe, it was the same thing. It's like aloe, hey, the results was there. We saw it. The epidemiology of it was there. So let's give it a shot because this test is expensive. It costs more than $100,000 just to see if a plant is working. So before I test something, I spend a lot of time weighing the probability that I'm going to have a positive response.
Absolutely. That would be essential. Absolutely. So you see a lot of now, not so much anymore, but maybe about 10 years ago, a lot of functional doctors, and maybe this is really popular, just not where I'm at. They do a lot of stem cell injections. How does that differ than what you're talking about? Because it sounds like stem cell injections is from something else, whereas what you're talking about is like encouraging your body to make them, correct?
Correct. Let me try to paint a picture here because I'm sure you would ask the question to a lot of other people, they'll say something different. All the science and all the practice of stem cell injection developed at a time when it was not known that you have your own stem cells, you release them, and they can repair. So it was all developed before. And when you develop that your own stem cells can do it, people are not going to stop doing it. So it's something that keeps growing. I'm not saying that they're necessarily equivalent, but if you look at it, 50,000 feet of altitude, you can say both with an injection or releasing your own stem cells, you end up with the same outcome, which is having more stem cells in circulation, stem cells that can participate to the process of tissue repair. If you take the plant extract that I have and the product that I put together that includes these plant extract, by taking this every day you will release, like STEMregen, you take 2 capsules and you will release within about 2-3 hours about 10 million of your own stem cells. And this is a conservative number. So you do this every day for a month, you have released 300 million of your own stem cells. It starts to be like very significant. Even more so if you do this like twice a day and you do this for 6 months. Now it starts to be like 3 to 4 billion stem cells that you have released. So it starts to be extremely significant. One injection of stem cells will be between 100 to 200 million for about, let's say, $10,000 to $20,000, something like that. The difference is that the stem cells comes oftentimes from a different source. They can come from you. There are injections that will be your own bone marrow stem cells, your own blood stem cells, your own fat-derived stem cells. So they're from you. Others will be like umbilical cord stem cells. These are coming from somebody else. They all have their pros and cons. And if you want, we can dive into this. But I just wanted to paint the big picture. When you start to release your own, and you do this consistently over long periods of time, the repair power that you give back to your body is quite significant. If you double the number of stem cells in your blood circulation when you're 50, you're on that day giving back to your body the repair power that it had when you were, let's say, 30 years old.
Right. Attention health enthusiasts, Paleo Valley just dropped the hottest new flavor of their 100% grass-fed bone broth protein, introducing salted caramel. Packed with 15 grams of collagen-rich protein per serving, this clean, nutrient-dense powder is made from grass-fed, pasture-raised beef bones, no grains, no pesticides, and no harsh chemicals. Why Paleo Valley? Unlike other brands that source collagen from hides, Paleo Valley's protein comes from bones, unlocking a treasure trove of amino acids to help improve gut health, digestion, and metabolism. And the flavor, decadent salted caramel that blends beautifully in coffee, smoothies, or even baked goods. Your taste buds will thank you, but don't take my word for it. Thousands of 5-star reviews rave about improved digestion and sustained energy throughout the day. Here's the deal. Go to paleovalley.com/Leanne to get 15% off your order today. Plus, every order is backed by a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Visit paleovalley.com/Leanne now and start enjoying better digestion and lasting energy. Okay, so your position on stem cells is basically to encourage the body to make their own over injecting some other form of like somebody else's stem cells into your body, because long term you'll have far more. Is that a fair summary?
It's a fair summary. What I'm trying to not do is say one is better than the other, because there's a place for both. And I'm working with, so we're doing a study right now on the heart. So we have a study on chronic stable congestive heart failure. So these are people that at least for 2 years have had an ejection fraction, which is the amount of blood that is pumped out of your heart with every heartbeat, which should be 50% and above. If you're below 45%, you suffer from heart failure, meaning you climb one flight of stairs, you need to stop, catch your breath. You walk for a block or two, you need to stop and sit down, catch your breath, that kind of thing. So these people have been like this for at least 2 years. Medicine has done everything that they could do for them. We come and we separate them in 3 groups. One group get STEMregen, this blend of those plants that I created. Then another group is an injection of their own fat-derived stem cells. And then the third group is a combination of both. Because we have seen in clinics that when people doing injection combine it with STEMregen, they get much better results. So far, what we have seen, the 10 patients that have gone through the protocol so far, the study is ongoing, 10 out of 10 have regained normal heart function just by releasing their own stem cells. So it's very significant. And sometimes people say when you're above 40, your stem cells are worth less. That's why you need an injection. All these people in that studies were between 65 and 76. So it's completely untrue. Yes, at that age, your stem cells are not as good as when you were 10, no doubt. But to say they're worthless is entirely untrue. The result by injection of their own stem cells was slightly better. The combination of both was about twice the benefits. So that study really tells us what we already knew, which was if you can afford a stem cell injection, do it. But you would be foolish to not combine it with STEMregen. If you cannot afford STEMregen, by releasing your own stem cells every day, you'll get comparable results over time.
So will these increase in stem cells, no matter what kind of route you decide is best for you, do they kind of just go to the weakest link?
They do.
Like the weakest place in the air. So if I know my lungs are super weak, the stem cells will just know to go there. They kind of just look for the weakest area and fix that?
Yes, but it's not that simple. Yes, in the sense that the weakest simple, let me rephrase that. Not that it's the weaker or the weakest, but it's the one that is the most damaged. So if it is damaged, that means it is releasing compounds to call for repair. And those compounds are part of a whole slew of compounds that are inflammatory compounds. It's all part of that response to damage. Now, if that area of your body has had this problem for a while and it has become chronic, it is still releasing compounds to call for repair. But you have also compromised the local microvasculature. So your stem cells are in your blood. They may not reach the area that is in need of repair. So they should be attracted there. They're called to be there. They may not be successful at circulating into these fine capillaries. So you may want to add, if it's a long-term injury, if it's something that has been there for a while and it doesn't seem to really repair, you may want to assist your stem cells, the one that you have released, with compounds that will suppress systemic inflammation, open the microvasculature. And for that reason, we have launched in May 2 new products, and that's exactly what they do. One of them is to suppress systemic inflammation to make stem cells more effective at identifying where it is that they need to go in the body, in a product that use 4 combined technologies to open your microvasculature to make sure that the stem cells that you have released can really go everywhere in the body. But they would be called at your weakest place or your most damaged area. Anything signaling in the body, this is where they're called, technically.
So when you're speaking about inflammation, would you be referring to cytokines?
They're not all cytokines, because cytokines are technically a peptide. So some of them are lipids, like all the derivative of arachidonic acid, your prostaglandins and all of those. So here's what is happening. Systemic inflammation in 90-something% of the people is caused by what is called DAMP, damage associated molecular pattern, which is you got a damage somewhere, it's signaling for repair, it's releasing inflammatory compounds, it is not repairing, it keeps signaling, and at some point, it's a little bit like a garbage can that you don't empty the bag, and there's a point your entire room stinks. Your entire blood is filled with those inflammatory compounds, and now they start to affect the functioning of other things in your body. So that's systemic inflammation. It has been associated with so many types of degenerative problems that we develop with age. So those compounds are of different nature. One of them is an enzyme called COX-2 that is like your immediate response to inflammation. It's prostaglandins, it's all those compounds. It's the very local inflammation. You need to use like inhibitors of COX-2. Vioxx and Celebrex years ago, that's what they are, inhibitors of COX-2. But there are natural inhibitors of COX-2 that can do the same job without the side effects. Curcumin is one, phycocyanin from blue-green algae is one, so you can use those. Blockers of 5-LOX, another line of inflammation. Blockers of the enzymatic pathways that makes all these cytokines. You add bromelain that is going to digest existing cytokines. So that's the blend that we have put together. A blend that is going to suppress existing cytokines, prevent the formation of new one, prevent the formation of prostaglandins and metabolites through COX-2, 5-LOX. So we overall calm down all the production of these compounds so that we say we reduce the noise, the background noise, so that stem cell now can see exactly which tissue is in need of repair.
Got it. And without that suppression, are the stem cells just not able to fully do what they need to do because there's so much happening?
All the stories that I told you when we began, when you say, can you tell me some of the stories? This was just with a product that released stem cells. So we have seen everything. We just released this product last May. I mean, I've been working on them for a long time. I knew that they would be working because I've played with them for a number of years. But on the marketplace, they've been on the marketplace for 6 months. So all the stories that we've had before was just by releasing your own stem cells. So releasing your own stem cells will work. The question that I had was, there are people who will release their own stem cells and they will say, I don't see the benefits. Why are these people not seeing the benefits? They release their stem cells. If they did not release their stem cells, they would not be alive today. You have a new liver every 2, 3 years. If you don't release your stem cells, you're dead. So their stem cells are there. They're doing their work. They're just not as effective as they could be. Why? So reasons are systemic inflammation is one. Poor microcirculation is another one. So we want to try to help the different aspects of the whole process. It's not that it will not work without them. It's just that you maximize your effort in wanting to reach full repair.
Got it. So we've talked about the repair system. We've talked about the impacts of inflammation, the components that can increase stem cells. We've talked about some of the impacts that can happen when this repair system goes down over time. When should an individual start thinking about this? Like, many of the women listening are in their 50s, 60s. Some of us are, in our 30s. When's a good time to start thinking about this repair system? And at what time should we start bringing in that outside help, or should we just rely on our body to do it? Like, can you give us some details about what we should prioritize?
If studies have shown that people who developed any kind of age-related diseases and problem, they all have fewer stem cells in circulation than healthy people of the same age. That means you cannot rely on your body to do the job. We need to understand we have a physiology that has evolved over tens of thousands of years with a life expectancy of 30 years of age. We're designed to be very strong and healthy and repair until early 40s. After that, we don't have, the body was not designed to have that. I'm not saying we can't, but there's a point you cannot just rely on normal physiology, and that's why so many people develop problems. So to your question, should we rely only on your body? Well, the answer to the question is the state of the world as it is today. We have gained 50 years of longevity, of lifespan, but it is marred with health issues. It's because we don't have enough stem cells in circulation. So when you should start, there's two answers to that question. There is I would say, the answer I would have given 10 years ago when biohacking was not what it is today, which is, in those days, prevention was it. Like, as long as you don't get the problem, then you're fine. Well, it's too late. When you get the problem, you get something big to reverse. Diabetes is having lost 60% of the cells making insulin in your pancreas. If you've lost 30, you're on your way, but you don't have the diagnosis. You're on your way because you don't have enough stem cells to offset cellular loss. If you put more stem cells in circulation, you can reverse a lot of the things that you would have developed, but you will never know because you have not developed them. So the moment we start to think more about, I want to take the health that I have today and I want to preserve it for decades to come, because if I start now, then I know that I may live, until 90, 100, but it's going to be a healthy path, until that time. When you start to think about like this, you start to think about it like this, you should start in your 40s, early 40s. You should start to support that repair system. If you're an athlete and you're really demanding on your body, start earlier. We have people in their 20s having great results when they start to boost their ability to repair. If you're asking more the question as to, I feel good right now, I'll start to do something when I don't feel good. Well, wait, when you start to have the first sign that something is not working fine, you just have a higher, it's more of an uphill battle now to reverse that issue.
As a functional health practitioner that's been in the industry for 17 years, it's very hard to convince somebody who's feeling good to invest in their health because it's fine. And we also don't know what feeling good feels like. Like 5 years ago, if you would ask me, do you feel good? I'd be like, yeah, I feel all right. But looking back, oh my goodness, I could have felt so much better because I feel better now at 38 than I did at 32. The investment in our health is a challenge. And when we're asking people to do those sorts of things, it's hard for them to kind of determine whether or not what they're doing is working. How do you know if the stem cell process is like working for you? Like, what can you expect if you're more on the, I'm investing in my health, I feel pretty good now? Is it kind of just, you have to wait a while and just, wait till your friends are 55 having issues and you're like, paid off? Yes. Or how do we know it's working?
I mean, It's working because we did the studies. So these are double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover studies. So you come on a day, the participant comes on a day, sits in the lab for about an hour, then we take a blood sample, then we give them a placebo or a plant that we want to study, and then we take another blood sample an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later. The same person comes back a week later, we do the exact same thing, and we give them the plant or the placebo. The placebo allows us to determine the circadian cycle of that person. How is that person's, their level of stem cells will vary between the 4 or 5 hours of that study, between like 8 in the morning to noon 1. And then we look what the plant has done different from what would be their normal cycle. So we've done that in this, and the response is highly, highly, highly statistically significant. We put more stem cells in circulation. We have the studies that the case that I showed you on on quadriplegics, the Parkinson's, all these. I mean, the proof, the heart study that I just mentioned, the proof that by putting more stem cells, here's the outcome that you could have. These are people with chronic, stable heart failure. Medicine could not do anything to their condition. That's the best they could do. And 6 months later, they have regained normal heart function. It's just showing you what your stem cells can really do in your body. Now, with that in mind, it is working. What everybody needs to understand for themselves is that unless you have something significant to repair, you will never feel the role of your stem cells in your body because they've been there since the day you're born. They've been doing their job in your body since the day you're born. You won't feel a difference. But the thing to understand is that the day that you have a heart attack, it did not start on that day. The day that you have diabetes, it did not start on that. There's not one age-related disease, so-called degenerative disease, aside from an accident, that is starting the day that you have the diagnosis, even the day that you start to feel that you're less than you were before. You're already 10 years in the process. It's just a reality, like a fundamental reality of our health. So the moment we understand that, it's obvious that if I know that because of my genetics, my family history, my lifestyle, my past injuries, whatever, if you ask anybody in your group, okay, you're likely to develop a disease as you age at some point. Which one will it be? Most people will have an idea.
Yeah, it'll be Alzheimer's or Parkinson's for me, for sure.
So we all know what it is, okay? So, but the decline is happening everywhere. So what I'm saying is that before you go too far in that process, we know that it's developing. The reason why you think it's not happening, it's because the diagnostic world that we live in will trigger a positive response only when you've gone so far in the decline. And that's the medical world we live in. And until you didn't pass the threshold for diagnosis, we say we're all into this vast range, where these numbers are sort of normal or there's just a trend. They're telling you that the problem is happening. Sometimes they're not even telling you. They won't be picked up before the problem is there. It's happening. Your body is developing those issues. You don't have to do it every day. When you're young, you're in your early 40s, let's say, do it for a month. You have released 300 million stem cells in that month. Do it 4 times a year, the change of season. Give yourself a boost of repair 4 times a year. You will go a long way just on that.
That's incredible. I have learned so much from you over the last hour. This is so cool. I'm really excited. There are a couple of things that are part of my maintenance protocol. And to be honest, I've not even thought about stem cells. This is a brand new topic for me. And now you have me interested. So thank you.
Because for most people, because of what we've been exposed to in the media, and it's not a criticism, it's just a reality. For most people, stem cells is like it's something that is added on. You go to a clinic, you get something, you've paid a lot of money for it, and you think that these are the stem cells that matter in your life. You're unaware that they are in your bone marrow. You've released them since the day you're born. They're essential for your survival. There is one event in our history that shows what happens when you don't have stem cells. It's Hiroshima. Radiation killed all those stem cells. They don't live more than a month or two. You don't have stem cells, you cannot survive. So you need stem cells to repair. I mean, the comparison with Hiroshima goes a little bit deeper. But what I mean is that you cannot repair your organs and tissues without stem cells. You will create degeneration very quickly in your body. If you get a new liver every 2-3 years, a new skin every month, a new lining of the intestine every week, if you don't have stem cells, that's it. All of this goes down very quickly. So people have stem cells, they're working. Once we discover this, we discover that all along in our history, we were using plants that were stimulating our stem cells. We just didn't know about it. So the discovery here is not something new. It's the discovery that there's something that we've done for thousands of years. We just didn't know that we were doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Christian, do you have any final thoughts or things that you feel like I didn't hit on when it comes to stem cells? Because I'm so new, I just didn't ask you that you feel like is essential.
No, you were pretty thorough. In fact, you covered pretty much everything, and at the end, we covered, I think, what is really the most essential because you're totally correct. In functional medicine, in the whole world of health, outside from the small biohacking community of health nuts who just want to optimize their physiology, even when they're good, they want to be better. So it's kind of, we need to borrow a little bit from that mentality a little bit, and it's just to realize that you are in the process of decline, even if you have not started to experience it. You're past 40, you have entered that phase of your life. It's the time to start to maintain your innate ability to repair. You can start sporadically in your 40s and ease into it more every day in your 50s. And there's a point where it will really help you to do this every day. I've done this every day for the past, 25 years, 28 years.
That's awesome. Where can people find more from you and connect with you?
So on social media, Stem Cell Christian. I thought that if I say Drapeau, most people cannot spell it. So Stem Cell Christian, and on the web at STEMregen.co, STEMregen.co.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, Christian. This was really great.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Did you enjoy our conversation about stem cells as much as I did? I know I learned a whole bunch. If you want to check out more from Christian, you can go to STEMregen. That's STEMregen.co/Leanne and use the code Leanne for 15% off for all new customers. Again, I am not promoting this from I've taken this product, it's changed everything for me kind of standpoint. I've never tried this product. I don't know much about it. I just wanted to have Christian on to chat about stem cells. I think it's really important that I be very honest with you when it comes to the products that I love, that I don't know much about, that I haven't tried, just because I don't know much about this product. I haven't looked into it. He did mention on the show, so I wanted to put together a code for y'all, because if you were encouraged to take it, I love saving money, and I know you do too. Okay, we'll see you back here for another episode next Tuesday. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Healthful Pursuit Podcast. Join us next Tuesday for another episode of the show. If you're looking for free resources, there are a couple of places you can go. The first, to my blog, healthfulpursuit.com, where you're going to find loads of recipes. The second is a free parasite protocol that I've put together for you that outlines symptoms, testing, and resources to determine whether or not you have a parasite, plus a full protocol to follow to eradicate them from your life if you need to. That's available at healthfulpursuit.com/parasites. And last but certainly not least, a full list of blood work markers to ask your doctor for so that you can get a full picture of your health. You can grab that free resource by going to healthfulpursuit.com/labs. The Healthful Pursuit Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Healthful Pursuit Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified health practitioner with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.